All right, settle down, settle down. Hi, class, and welcome back to the Guide to Self-Sufficiency Farming. The first question is why farm? Farming will allow you to do cooking and some alchemy. While most items are obtainable outside of farming, it is more efficient in both terms of energy and time to just farm them. There's also a few items that you can only obtain through farming, such as pepper. To start farming, you're going to need a fence. Find a fence, click the magnifying icon at the top right of your screen, and type in fence. Then path to the nearest vendor and buy a fence. This costs contribution points. I suggest going for the strong fence that costs 10 because you can only have a certain number of fences in the world at a time, so maximizing the amount of space you can use is better. There also are a couple other options for fences, so you can get 2 free fences from a quest line. You get this from Liana and Velia, and it's called Farming. Know anything about farming. To get your second fence, pick up the quest The Best Beer Comes from the Best Wheat from Claw in the center of Velia. There are also pearl fences that require 1200 pearls to purchase, and these also require no contribution points. Now to place your fence, right click it in your inventory and find a spot that you can place it. There needs to be a bunch of blue little beams above each grid to be able to place it there. I personally suggest going to Velia just west of it and north of Logia Farm up on that plateau. Note that you need to interact with your farms at least once every 14 days or they will be taken out of the world and you will lose your seeds. Now let's talk about farming equipment. Farming equipment is actually kind of useless because mastery has no effect. So the only thing you need to go for is XP. You can make silver embroidered clothes, which give you up to 40% XP and some movement speed. Other than that, you can also use XP artifacts for life skilling, and you can use light stones like a farming XP. Leveling up your farming increases the speed that you do stuff, and it reduces energy consumption. Seeds are sold on the marketplace, but since we don't do that here, we'll talk about the other ways to actually get them on your own. To get the seeds, you have 2 options. By far the best option is going to a seed vendor. There are a few types of seed vendors, but I suggest you go to the high tier ones because they have much more options. One easy to get to high tier seed vendor is named R. That is spelled AHR, and they're in Calphion. The second option is by gathering from the material that you're wanting to get a seed for. So if you want a potato seed, you could go gather a potato until you get a seed. This works for everything, so if you want mushroom seeds, herb seeds, just look up and make sure that there's a seed available for that type of herb or mushroom before you try. And for some of things, that's the only way to get those seeds, so be sure to check. To plant the seed, go to the middle of your garden, press R to go into place mode, select the seed you want, click on the ground, be sure it's not on top of you or your horse, and then press confirm or spacebar works as well. Some seeds will take 1 slot and others will take up to 2. Now there's a couple exceptions to this, being the chicken feed and haystacks, which take 3 and 4 slots respectively, so be sure to know how many you can plant in each plot. To make chicken feed, you're going to grind 20 rough stones and 100 barley, and to make haystacks you dry 50 wheats. These 2 items work exactly as other seeds do in pretty much every other way, so anything that is said from here on out applies. Next, let's talk about caring for your plants. For plants to grow, you need to be online. Plants will sometimes become infested with bugs or need pruning, and so you just need to go press R on them to cure them. Another option is to use workers to do that for you. If you need a guide on how to get workers, there should be one on screen now and in the description below. To set a worker onto the farm, click the garden orb icon at the top left, then click workers, assign worker, and set the worker to work. Make sure that you have recovery items in your family inventory so that they stay fed. With a worker in the garden, you will not need to worry about pruning or removing bugs. Next, let's look at the crop information. Temperature, humidity, groundwater, and fertilizer. Different plants have different levels that they like for temperature and humidity. To view humidity information and temperature information in an area, go to your map, and at the top right, there's an option to look at that. While this is important, almost every crop will do just fine in Velia. The last thing is groundwater and fertilizer. To increase the groundwater, you can dump a bottle of river water or purified water onto your farm to increase it. And same thing with fertilizer, you just click the fertilizer to increase it. Fertilizer just increases growth speed, so it's not something I personally use, but you create it by heating grain, and then to make the next tier, you put leavening agent with it. Now you're gonna have full-grown plants, and you have 2 options with those. You can harvest them or breed them. To harvest them, just click R and you will receive the product of the crop you're growing. So if it's a potato seed, you'll get potatoes. But instead of doing that, I would suggest you breed your garden until you have enough seeds to replant and you're using the highest tier seeds you can. So as you're breeding them, you have a chance at getting higher tier seeds, which is what we want. There are 5 tiers of seeds. Withered seeds from low tier vendors. Don't buy these if you don't have to, but if you need to, only breed them, don't gather from them, and hopefully you'll get the normal seeds. Then there's the normal seeds. From these, you're gonna probably also want to breed these as well up to high tier. And then the high quality seeds, you can breed up to blue special seeds, which is the highest tier that you can get until you're Artisan 1. And then once you hit Artisan 1, you can keep breeding them up to magical seeds. Now note that magical seeds are a little bit different because they take up 5 times the amount of space as their lower level counterparts, but they also give you way more produce when you harvest them. So I think it's worth it to breed magical seeds and not use special seeds once you can get to that point. It takes less time, energy, storage space, and it yields roughly the same amount. And by time, I mean it takes less time while you're harvesting. It takes less actions, so it's just less time. Each tier of seed will give their respective type of produce, so the green high quality ones will give you high quality. The only exception to this is magical seeds give special produce, so they give the blue produce. Breeding also gives you a chance at fruits of nature and blush leaves. Harvesting, you can't get these from. Blush leaves can be exchanged for fertilizer, special pepper seeds, which I suggest you do at least 2 times, but not more than that. And then you can get stonetail fodder for a dream horse, and contribution plus farming XP, which is where I put most of my blush leaves into, except for the few pepper seeds that I got to start off my pepper farm. Also note that magical chicken feed and magical haystacks take up 4 and 5 slots respectively, so it's not times 5 for those 2, but for everything else it is. Next, you'll sometimes get a mole to spawn while harvesting or breeding. There will usually be a yellow beam of light above them, but sometimes it doesn't show up, but all you gotta do is just kill them and pick up their loot. Sometimes it will say a pit-a-pat mole spawned, and you really want to go kill this because this drops a petal that can be exchanged for a pet. You just need 10 of these petals and you can go get a mole pet, which is pretty cool. One thing to note though is I have done this on a new character who had like 10 AP, and it took about 2 minutes to kill the mole, so make sure you have a little bit of AP and make sure you have a slightly leveled up character. It's not much, but be aware of that. And I think that's all the information you need. So next time, let's do a guide on gathering. If you have any questions, ask them below. If I missed anything, let me know and I can put it in a pinned comment, but I believe that should be all. Thank you so much for watching.